Hard 4. Starting off with a movie from 1979, David Cronenberg's The Brood. Cronenberg is a weird, twisted fuck. Excuse my French. He became most notably for films like Rabid and Dead Zone, The Fly. But this movie is pretty out there. Again, I don't want to tell you too much about it. It's the ultimate experience in inner terrors, and it's one of director David Cronenberg's darkest and most twisted films. So if you like dark and twisted and little kids, watch The Brood. Next is a movie I saw back in my teenage years, and it always stuck with me. And it's one of those movies you watched one time, or you rented one time, and then there were so many movies like this one at the time, you kind of forgot the name of it, and then in later years you rediscover it. That was my case with this movie, The Burning. The cover has absolutely nothing to do with the movie. It's a summer camp movie. A janitor type guy who's mildly retarded, I guess, accidentally gets burned alive in his shed by some campers, and his vengeful, well, it's in the vein of the Friday the 13th, the Jason type movies, where you've got a killer killing campers. But yeah, there's a really, he likes to use, as far as I remember, it's been a while, those big pruning shears. And there's a scene that starts off almost like a jump scare, but then it just turns into a massacre, where some teens are floating down the river in a raft, and this dude jumps up with these shears and just goes to work on them. So, The Burning. Okay, next. A film by Lamberto Bava, another one of the Italian directors, Demons. Demons was my introduction to Bava's work, and it's a weird ass movie, and it involves a mask, and the mask drawing blood, and once it draws blood, you become infested with one of these demon things. And it's almost like a zombie type thing in the fact that once you get bit, you become one, and before long, yeah. And it starts off in a movie theater, and while the people in the movie theater are watching a movie about this mask and what it does when you find it. So I enjoyed this one. There's a lot of cool special effects in it. So, Demons. Okay. I got another Italian. I didn't realize I'm just grabbing them. So, this is a Lucio Fulci film, Seven Doors of Death. Name says it all. What can I say about it? It came out in 1982. Some people inherit a hotel, not suspecting that it contains one of the 7 gateways to hell. Horrible events begin to happen in the possessed hotel. I won't tell you what happens, but there's some pretty gruesome horror stuff. Some scenes take place in that one. Okay, next, here's another one of those movies that I don't recall it being a big hit when it came out, because again, it wasn't later on until I discovered it, and I'm glad I did. It ain't Footloose. It's Stir of Echoes. Now, you can call it a horror movie. I put it in with my horror movies, but it's kind of like a dark suspense kind of film or whatever. But it does have a supernatural element, and despite the fact that Kevin Bacon's in it, he does a really good performance in this movie, and yeah, it's all about ghosts. And you know, if you have ghosts, you have everything. So I don't know. This next, now some of these, I should have thought this stack out better. Some of these kind of lean more towards science fiction, but because there's like murder and death and destruction and dismemberment, I'm throwing them in the horror category. This particular movie, the only way I could find it was on a triple feature movie, and the movie in question is The Hidden, starring Kyle MacLachlan and Michael Nouri, who was known for detective type roles or whatever. Kyle MacLachlan stars as a FBI agent investigating reports of demonic creatures that invade the bodies of innocent victims and transform them into inhuman killers in the sci-fi classic The Hidden. And kind of like the name insinuates, you never know who the killer really is because he kind of leaps from body to body to body. Kind of like the Denzel Washington movie, The Fallen. So you never know who you're looking for to be your killer until it's too late. Next, we've got a movie that I'm sure a lot of you metalhead guys have seen and a lot of horror fans have seen. Looking back, it's a bit cheesy, but that's why we love these movies, right? And it's got the worst cover of all time because this is like this is not the original cover for this movie. I'm sure this was just hey, let's put this out real quick and make some bucks off of it. The movie is Trick or Treat, and although Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons are on the cover, they're in the movie very briefly. The movie is about this metal singer named Sammy Kerr, who he's a devil worshiper, and he really pushes that stuff in his music. And the very last record that he ever pressed or put out, he died during a ritual in the process of making the movie, and his spirit went into the record. And the way to bring him back is to play the record backwards, where he can speak to the central character by playing the record backwards. It's a movie about the metalhead outcasts that no one at school likes, but doesn't he get one over on them? Ozzy plays a minister that's all about hate for heavy metal, and Gene Simmons plays a disc jockey at the radio station there in the town. But yeah, I like this movie. A lot of people didn't, but oh well. Next is a movie that looks older than what it is. It's made this way on purpose. It came out in 2005, but it's a silent film that's shot like a film would have been shot back in the 20s, and it's called The Call of Cthulhu. And it is based on the story Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft. Very well acted, very well shot, and it really feels like it's from that era, even though it was done by people in the 2000s with a love for the Lovecraftian theme. Yeah. It's a gorgeous, haunting, and pitch-perfect mini-epic. So there you go. Okay, here's another one that can be considered science fiction. I know, I should have looked at them better, but I don't care. I grabbed movies I thought you might like to see, if you haven't already. I'm sure the majority have seen this movie, but I couldn't resist. John Carpenter's They Live, starring Rowdy Roddy Piper. I love this movie. I was apeshit crazy about this movie when it came out, not only because I'm a wrestling fan, but because just the whole premise behind the movie of having these sunglasses. Aliens live amongst us and we don't know it, and the aliens are all rich and well-to-do, and the only way to see them is by putting on these sunglasses, which reveals what they truly look like. If you can see that, they kind of look like skinless humans. The movie's 94 minutes long, and about 20 minutes of that is one fight scene between Roddy Piper and Keith David, but it's great. And Roddy Piper has some of the best one-liners in this movie, including the famous line, "I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum." So, and then I think I'll squeeze one more in. That's what she said. Not as popular as the movies that preceded this one, but in my opinion, growing up, being a teen, having watched all those movies, this was kind of my favorite gore-wise of the George Romero films. This is Day of the Dead. There's old Bub there on the cover. Day of the Dead takes place in it's kind of like an underground silo. I don't know if it's a missile silo, but some kind of silo on an island off somewhere around New York. And these military guys have holed themselves up here, maybe a dozen or so, and they're at their wits' end. The world is all zombified at this point, and they're just trying to survive, and they're not doing a very good job. They bicker, they fight. There's a ton of unnecessary foul language spouted back and forth at each other. And that's the one thing about the movie that bothers me the most. It's like the dialogue is really over the top as far as the way they talk to each other. But special effects are good. The character Bub really, this is the first time you actually have some affinity or you actually care about the zombies, where in the first two films it was all shoot them in the head, kill them, burn them. But yeah, Day of the Dead. This is a great flick. If you haven't seen it, so that's it for this part, and we'll see you soon.